Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 1771. The topic is mindset, and the title is What Keeps You Motivated? So I was talking with a client, and they're a business client. We do a Zoom every single week, and then they also have a online document that they can write in Q&A. I write in the answers. We kind of discuss different resources for business and for just personal things. So it's just a nice open communication format that we can use between our Zooms. And recently, in one of our conversations, the summary of what this person is kind of dealing with is they're a personal trainer. They're struggling in their business. They're working crazy long hours. They don't feel like they're making enough money for the hours they're putting in, and they don't feel that it's building up to a future that they would want. So we're talking about how they can make some business changes with their structure and what they can do to make more money with less time invested. Now, along with that, they're finding it very hard to take care of themselves. They find it very challenging to eat healthy and to train when they feel so tired and financially stressed. Those are real feelings. Everyone deals with that. So one of the things they brought up recently in a Zoom was they said, what has kept you motivated for so long? I'm going to be turning 40 this year. I've been paid to be a personal trainer in some fashion since I was 18 years old. And the reason why I say it that way is I've owned Brutal Iron Gym since 2011, but I was doing personal training as the primary source of my income even before that, while also having other jobs and going to my undergrad and grad school. So I've been paid and kind of making money since I was 18 years old as a personal trainer, and I actually started my own kind of fitness journey at 15. In part of our conversation, I've talked about how I've developed my business and structure and what I do differently from like 18 years old all the way to now, even like last year to now. It's always evolving, it's always changing. And we've also talked about that since I was 15 years old, the most amount of time that I've ever missed from training was a week. So I went from like a Monday until the next Monday when I would train again. So for 25 years, I've only ever taken 7 days off twice in my life. And those both annoy me. So that's just the way I am. And we were saying is they feel similarly. They're just so frazzled and so stressed that they can't find that part of them right now. So we were talking about what has kept me going in the sense of, for 25 years, how can you have never missed more than a week of training? And in a nutshell, what I answered them with is that the alternative would be worse. And what I mean by that is I grew up kind of lazy. I was an active kid, very active kid. I apologize to my mom and dad. I was a very active kid. But then around, I don't really know, but say 8, 9, 10, I started kind of sitting around a little bit more. Then from like 10 to 14, I was, eating snacks at night and playing video games. And I got really kind of pudgy. I just wouldn't go outside, and it was a lazy version of myself. So I grew up lazy. I had like a very skinny, fat type body. Oh my gosh. Just no muscle whatsoever, no strength, no visible anything. Just a skin and mush. But basically, that's what I was all the way up until my 15th birthday. And I remember kind of looking at my friends at that age and saying, like, oh man, they're pretty fit. Like, you would see some of the older kids in the gym benching like 315 or something crazy. And it was just like, you would see that, and I would want to be that, but I felt so far removed from it that it wasn't possible for me. And looking back at it now, I'm like, geez, it was, you lazy bum, you weren't even trying. You were counting yourself out and you weren't even trying yet, But I remember thinking that I wouldn't be able to achieve it even if I had tried. Then on my 15th birthday, in a little bit of a play fight with a friend, they said, well, at least I'm not fat. And I was like, damn it, I don't like that he could say that about me. And it's true. Like, he could say it because I've allowed it to be true. I wasn't mad at him for saying it. I was mad at myself for being it. And I was like, well, damn it, I'm done. I'm changing this. This isn't going to happen anymore. I'm changing this. So I realized at that time that I was unhappy with myself and unhappy in life. And I felt a sense of suffering while not working on my goals. Then when I would think about how hard I would have to work to achieve my goals, that was suffering. I was going to have to suffer to train. I was going to have to suffer to eat right. I was going to have to suffer to try to do things differently than I'd been doing. So I was like, well, what the hell? What am I doing? I'm suffering for nothing right now. I'm getting nothing for my suffering. Or I could suffer and I could get something. So I would either suffer from being unhappy and have no hope of change, or I could suffer by trying to make a change and actually have hope that life could improve and life could be different. Life could be something other than what it was, and at the moment I was unhappy. I didn't want it to be that anymore. So I was going to suffer either way. I might as well suffer for something. I might as well get something for my suffering. Yes, I may risk being even more depressed or even more unhappy if I try it and it doesn't work. But I was literally doing nothing. I was eating dinner with my parents, then eating a second dinner, playing video games. I was sitting on my ass eating junk food. I was doing nothing. So if I did anything, I would probably get a better outcome than what I was getting. So it didn't have to be something amazing. Just literally any effort would have gotten me some results. That would get you hooked and hopeful that maybe more effort would get you more results. So I was suffering either way. Why the hell would I not suffer and get something for it? So that made me kind of kickstart my efforts, and I started into it. I remember from 15 to 16, I just kind of did bodyweight stuff, trying to do push-ups and sit-ups every day. Horrible, but I did something. And then at 16, I convinced my parents to give me one side of our 2-car garage, and they bought me a weight set. So I started to learn how to lift weights. I was from 15 to 18 years old. I was 165 pounds. Now, in that time span, I grew 4 inches, but I was 165 pounds. I was insanely weak. I tried to bench 95 pounds, got stuck under the bar, and had to roll the bar down my body and die trying to get out of it. I was incredibly weak. I had absolutely no muscle definition. I can't tell you what my abs, looked like. I was never going to see them. It was just, like I said, skin and mush. But that was, that's where I was going to start. But it certainly wasn't where I had to stay. After 3 years of training, I couldn't squat 225 to parallel. I couldn't bench 135, and I couldn't deadlift 275. I think 225 probably looked like I was dying to even do that. It took me until my mid-20s to squat 315, bench 225, and deadlift 315. It wasn't until my 30s that I was actually able to squat 405, bench 315, and deadlift 405. At my peak, I have squatted 600 pounds in knee sleeves. I've benched 435 pounds, and I've deadlifted 700 pounds. But by then, I had a lot of injuries because I was pushing myself when I was younger, didn't understand or didn't know proper technique. The worst part, by far, was poor understanding of nutrition. From 15 till 18, I was anorexic. I only ate one meal a day and tried to eat as little as I possibly could at that one meal just in front of family so they wouldn't bug me. But I would be surprised if I ate 500 calories a day for 3 years. So I had very poor just integrity of tissues. And it led to a lot of muscle tears. I had poor recovery skills. I slept horribly. I had sleep apnea, which I didn't know about at that age. I had surgery on my throat when I was an infant, and I couldn't sleep. So I was only sleeping maybe 5 hours a night. When I went and got a sleep apnea test as an adult, they said that I was off the charts. Like, I scored as high as you could score on the test. And the lady's like, essentially, you're sleeping half the time that you're actually in bed. So if you're in bed for 8 hours, you're getting maybe 4 hours worth of quality sleep, but it's so interrupted. It's just like you sleep for a little bit, you wake yourself up. You sleep for a little bit, you wake yourself up. I was waking up, a dozen times an hour. It was horrible, horrible sleep. So I had horrible sleep quality, horrible nutrition. So I had some injuries, along the way as I was trying to push my body to continue to grow and develop, but I didn't have any of the health foundation to be able to support that change, those adaptations. But in spite of all that, I am now 280 pounds. I've actually leaned out the last couple months. I was up to 290 something just a couple months ago. So I'm down to 280 pounds, and I have a lower body fat percentage, and I have more muscle definition than I had at 165 pounds. So I'm 115 pounds heavier, but I'm leaner and I look better. I still haven't achieved one of my younger kid goals of being a pro bodybuilder. I would love to do that, but the drugs that I believe it would take are a little more than what I want to experiment with. And if I want to do it natural, I have dieted down before, and I just didn't like how small I felt, and I would rather continue to be more patient, continue to put on more muscle mass, and get it later in life. I'm not in a rush to try to get a pro card, lose a ton of muscle size, be dieted down, and be very thin. I didn't like how I felt when I looked like that when I was younger. So I would rather be patient, take more time, and put on more muscle. So that's just my choice. I wanted to have an elite total, in powerlifting. That was a fun goal that I had for myself when I got into powerlifting. And I had gotten strong enough to actually do it. I did an elite total in the 2 weeks prior to a meet, just testing my maxes in the gym to see what I would use in the meet. So I actually had the elite total in the gym, but when I went to the meet, I got hurt, and I wasn't able to finish the meet. I got hurt during squats. And, there's, a million and one things. I had really bad anxiety for the first time in my life. I ever experienced anxiety was during that prep. I lost 20 pounds getting ready for that competition. It wasn't from dieting. It was stress and just being unable to eat. I had poor sleep quality, just a whole bunch of stuff. So the list goes on. Everybody always has excuses when things don't work out. But I was there strength-wise, but it just didn't pan out. So I never achieved that goal. One goal I did have, though, when I was younger, I always wanted to have 20-inch arms because that seemed to be like what the bodybuilders always had. And I do have 20-inch arms, so that's been pretty cool. But now I want to have them but be leaner. That would be even better. What's kept me motivated is the belief that to have a fulfilled life, that I want to have goals that I will have to work for. So to have a fulfilled life, I want to wake up every day and have something to strive for, something to suffer for. So if you consider that you want to work on your goals, work towards your goals, work is in a sense suffering because it's typically not what you want to do at that moment because it's not the most comfortable thing to do. It's what's good for you, but it's not comfortable. So that is, in a way, suffering. But it's suffering for something. As opposed to when I was unhappy, I was doing nothing, I was suffering for nothing. What keeps me motivated is the recognition that whether I work on my goals or whether I don't, that I will have some degree of suffering, some degree of challenge, some degree of stress in my life. I can invest into progressive stress and have happiness along the way. Or I can try to avoid stress, but be stressed about being unhappy. If I'm going to struggle, if I'm going to have stress, if I'm going to have challenges in my life, I want them on my terms. And I want them in a way that improves my life. By working on my goals, I haven't achieved most of them yet. But I have accomplished way more than I ever thought I could. I never thought I would be 280 pounds and not just, a bowling ball of a bodybuild. Never would have thought that when I was 165 pounds and skinny fat that I would ever be 280 pounds. So I've achieved some pretty cool stuff. I never thought I would squat 600 pounds, deadlift 700 pounds, bench over 400. Never thought I'd be able to do that, but I have. That's pretty awesome. And what's also awesome is I've been able to help thousands of other people achieve their goals from what I've learned on the way to try to achieve mine. So I got formal education. I got my bachelor's in health and phys ed. I got my master's in nutrition. I have a bunch of certifications. I've read damn near every book you can read about fitness. I've watched tens and tens and tens of thousands of YouTube videos. I have educated myself as much as I can, and I still do it every damn day, to try to further my own goals. And that has allowed me to help thousands of other people. So now I'm suffering for something. And I get to suffer for something bigger than me, which is pretty cool. So that has been something that has kept me motivated. Is the recognition that if I'm going to suffer, I'm either going to suffer from being unhappy or I'm going to suffer for working on my goals. But if I'm going to suffer, if you're going to have moments of stress and unhappiness, make it mean something. What are you suffering for? Are you unhappy every day because you're doing nothing? You're falling behind, you feel worthless, you feel like a failure. Or are you unhappy every day because, I'll have to get up 30 minutes more earlier than I really wanted to make sure I can get the right breakfast. I'm going to suffer because I'd like to just go home after work, but it's better for me if I stop by the gym and get a workout in. I'm going to suffer if I prep a little bit of food in the evenings for 20, 30 minutes so I can eat right the next day. I'm either going to suffer from being unhappy and doing nothing about it, or I'm going to suffer by putting in the work to improve my life. What are you suffering for? If you're suffering for nothing, what a waste. And it's especially a waste because you may not realize that it doesn't take much to create forward momentum, forward movement. When you often think about what you have to do to progress, to move forward, to make a change, we tend to think of everything. We tend to think of every single possible thing that I would have to do to be my absolute best self. And we think we have to do all of that immediately. You don't. You just have to do anything better than you did yesterday. Anything. Something small. Just anything. It doesn't have to go 0 to 100 instantly. It just has to go 0 to 1. You just have to go 1. What is one thing that you can do better than you did yesterday? That's it. Can you eat breakfast for the first time in forever? Can you go for a 10-minute walk a couple times this next week? What can you do that's just one step above where you are? You're going to suffer either way. You're going to suffer from doing nothing and being unhappy about that. Or you're going to suffer from doing something and being unhappy about that. If you're going to suffer, suffer for something. Make it worth it. Okay? So that's what motivates me, and this is maybe kind of a dark view of life, but I just always remember the alternative would be worse. I'd much rather wake up early, get my foods in, get my training in, and suffer for something that progresses me versus trying to sleep in a little bit, skip my food, skip my workout, feel like a fat piece of crap who's a loser and fails at everything in life. Right? That's what we tend to tell ourselves. Man, I don't want that feeling. The alternative to putting in the work that progresses me is worse. So yeah, I'm going to stay putting in the work that progresses me because that's better. At least it has positivity. At least it has hope. At least I can see something of change happening, even if it's slow. So I hope that if you're struggling with motivation, just remember that if you're going to suffer for something, and the suffering you experience working on your goals is better than the suffering you would feel from not working on your goals. Okay. Well, if you have any questions, if you want any help, I'm always here. Thank you for listening to the podcast. And if you ever need anything, just email me. My email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. If you like the podcast, please share the podcast. If you like the podcast, please consider donating to support the podcast, which you can do on our website. If you like the information we share in the podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. You can find us and follow us on Instagram and YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Gym. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.